I can go ahead and begin. Okay.
Hold on, I do the intro.
Dennis, why don't you get started?
Okay. Good afternoon, I'm Dennis Galucki, and welcome to the 450th Imagine Greater Buffalo program and our 71st virtual Imagine lecture hosted by the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. Thanks so much for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, we're going to start with our speaker shortly, but first, a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted during our speaker's presentation. So if you do have a question, please type it into the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. This program is being recorded. You'll be able to watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channels. And we hope you share the link with your friends and networks. Now to our featured speaker, Dr. Joe Stahlman. Dr. Stahlman is an indigenous anthropologist, the director of the, the director of the Seneca Nation Tribal Historic Preservation Office, and, I keep losing it here, hold on. Now, I've lost that intro.
Dennis, I can introduce myself. It's okay.
Would you take it from there, Joe, and
Yeah.
and run with it?
Yeah. So this is the 450th show. Congratulations. Congratulations on that. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Joe.
Nyaway, my name is Dr. Joe Stahlman. Has Mr. Galucki introduced myself. I am the director of the Onosagwende Cultural Center, which houses the Seneca-Iroquois National Museum. It also houses a number of other departments, which I will talk about in a few minutes. I also run their Tribal Historic Preservation Office. A lot of people don't know what a TIPO is. TIPOs are the native equivalents to state historic preservation offices. So whenever there's any development or anything going on, the nations whose Aboriginal lands are being affected do have a opportunity to make some contributions to that ongoing development project. And it also becomes a forum to protect cultural resources and other elements that the communities find important in the preservation of their culture. I have been director of this center for 3 years now. In that time, I have really grown to see just the vastness of and the reach of Seneca and Haudenosaunee culture. Haudenosaunee is our preferred name for the Iroquois Confederacy. I'm really amazed by the amount of allies in Western New York. I'm a recent transplant back to the region. I left as a child. As an adult, I continuously came back to visit family and friends. But this is the first time that I have really immersed myself by living in the region for so long. And I feel really grateful to be part of these ongoing relationships and friendships. And then again, I want to thank Mr. Galucki for having me here today. So I need to jump right into my presentation because at 12:55, I have to leave. I have another engagement that starts at 1. So today I am going to go through and just talk about the Onosagwende Cultural Center, and along the way I will stop and discuss a lot of some of the things that we hold within our institution, okay? So the name Onosagwende, that means he who keeps the doors open. And our cultural center is named after a faith keeper, someone who was a cultural bearer for the Seneca Nation and for the larger Haudenosaunee communities. His English name was Richard Johnny John, but his name that everyone went by is Gwente. However, we use his formal Seneca name for the name of our center. And the Seneca-Iroquois National Museum was started on August 1st, 1977, and this came out of a need within the Seneca Nation community. The need was, at the time, the elders at the time felt like their culture was starting to become a little stereotyped. It started to become a little stagnant, and they weren't seeing a lot of the youth engaging in their Seneca culture. And so the community decided, through a number of actions and volunteers and initiatives and grant writing fundings, they created this museum, the Seneca-Iroquois National Museum. And it wasn't a very big building. Well, actually, the building still exists, has a historic preservation officer. I'm going to try to save the building from any major remodeling or anything, because I think it needs to be preserved as it is. Anyways, the building is quite small. It's only 80 feet by 80 feet. If you think about that, that's not very big. But you know what? When you see the pictures of the old museum, I was there twice prior to coming to the new building. And I was always surprised by the amount of things that they were able to put in that 80 by 80 square foot place. And originally, the museum only cost the nation $190,000. If I were to translate that into modern dollars, it would be much, much higher. And then, because of the size of the building, they didn't have any collection space. And so, as you guys know, Seneca Nation and other Seneca people have been involved in a number of enterprises. And the nation acquired a steel shed that used to be used for drying tobacco. And they refurbished that building, and that's where they stored their collections for a couple decades. But, you know, from 1977 to 2012, the nation really saw the museum just really grow. The attention, the partnerships, and they thought it was time to actually to create a bigger, better building. And so they did. And then on August 4th of 2018, the new location opened up. The project cost $14 million, and it is a 32,000 square foot facility. There's 2 floors. The top floor, the ground floor, is actually the museum. So upstairs, we have a museum that is 10,000 square feet. Then we have a gift shop. We have 2 classrooms. We have a work room where we have maker bots, the plastic printing. We're able to do that here at the museum. And then in January, we brought on board Seneca artist Carson Waterman. Carson Waterman is our first elder in residence. And so we gave Carson a workspace where he comes here and he's able to just work freely. And he likes to leave his door open. So if you ever come here and you see Carson's door open, feel free to peek in and watch him work. He really enjoys that. And we actually like showing him off because he's actually one of the founders of the museum. And I think it's actually timely that he came full circle. Later this year, we hope to do a retrospective with Carson, showing his life's work. There's a lot of things about Mr. Waterman that people don't realize. And we're hoping that this show, that he will show off some of those things, those little unknowns of Carson that a lot of people don't know about. And I really look forward to this opportunity to work with him. So that's the upstairs. And then downstairs, we have our collections. Our collection space right now is 10,500 square feet. Within that collections, we have the nation's official archives. So all the paperwork from the government that the government wants to preserve for prosperity, they save that material. We have a very large ethnographic collection. Yesterday, we had Mr. Grant Jonathan come in and he looked at our beadwork. And based on Mr. Jonathan's estimates, we have one of the largest beadwork collections in the Eastern United States. Not confirmed, but just to hear him say that made me pretty happy. If you guys ever come here for anything official, I do a lot of behind the scenes tours. And if you guys are ever part of that, you will see some of that beadwork. Within the collection space, we have ethnographic, but we also have what people term archaeological. To be honest, I don't really see a distinction between what my ancestors of the past made and what my living relatives make now. It's just a continuation. But however, you know, people do divide the world up. And so for the sake of ease of locating objects, we have separated between ethnographic and the archaeological. That space is actually growing, and I'm working on a number of partnerships with outside people or institutions where we're hoping to bring Seneca collections back to Seneca Nation. And that will facilitate more community-based research where researchers will actually reach out to the nation for research opportunities and not necessarily non-Indigenous institutions. And this will hopefully allow opportunities for Indigenous peoples to have a voice in some of the research going on. But also, most importantly, it gives Seneca Nation some control over what types of research are going to be done. And plus, you know, with a facility like this, it also feels like it's time for a lot of this stuff to come home. And so outside of the collections in the basement, we also have a very large media collection. And I'm sure some of you have heard recently that we were awarded a $100,000 gift from Showtime Channels. We are very much excited by this gift because what we're going to do with it is digitize all of the Seneca and Haudenosaunee history that we have been collecting. We have daguerreotypes, we have photographs, we have VHS, we have Super 8s. You name it, we have it. And so right now I am going through all of this media and I am trying to figure out what kind of software and equipment I need. I'm not one who really likes to shop, but I'm a little excited to do some shopping right now. I've been looking at reel-to-reels. I've been spending a lot of time at eBay and other auction houses looking for reel-to-reels so we can begin this process. It's very exciting. Other things that we have downstairs, we have all of our offices. We also have a research room. So if there is a Seneca Nation member or even just a non-native researcher who is interested in doing some research, there is a form that you can fill out from SNI's clerk's page, and you can request some information. And we create situations where you can come in and do research with the materials that you have requested. What else do we have downstairs? A lot of people are surprised by this. So this is a $14 million building, correct? And so what a lot of people don't realize what we have in the building is on the other side of the collections, we actually have a conservation space where we can repair and clean a lot of the incoming objects that come into our facility. We're able to become more independent by doing that, but we still rely on outside partnerships in order to get a lot of this work done. Some of the expertise that is involved to repair objects that are a few hundred years old is still outside of our realm of expertise. And so we do utilize departments like Buffalo State's Arts Conservation Department. They have been a very strong and powerful ally. And I have just been amazed by the way that my relationship with Buffalo State has grown just by cleaning or fixing objects. It's become more than that. And I really enjoy that one probably the most. I need to move on, so I will. This is our founder. This is Richard Johnny John, or Onosagwente. He was born in 1914. As I told you, his name means both doors are open. His contributions to Seneca and Haudenosaunee culture cannot be overstated. He literally carried on a lot of things that we carry on now. And who knows what would have happened if we didn't have Mr. Johnny John. So let me go through some of our departments. So we do have the museum on top. Our museum hosts a lot of lifeways of the Seneca and Haudenosaunee. We talk about treaties, we talk about clothing, we talk about our tools. And within all of that, we even have non-Indigenous objects that we have incorporated into our culture over time. And we continue to show those things off. And sometimes people do get a little surprised that, we would have a European style tool within our collections. And for us, it doesn't matter where that item came from. It was how it was useful for us.
Joe, while you're getting that next image up, I'm mindful of the time. It's about 11 minutes to, and I would like to get a question or two from our audience, at least give them the opportunity if they have one. So do the best you can to squeeze as much as you can in the next 6 minutes.
So I'm just going to, Mr. Galucki, I will talk for 3 more minutes, and then whoever has questions will do that. So upstairs, we have the museum, we do tours, we do special events, we do weddings, we do all kinds of stuff. And a lot of people from the community use our facility. I do the tribal historic preservation. I kind of already talked about tribal historic preservation, but it is one of the offices within the building. And that office continues to grow leaps and bounds. And then we have the nation's archives. This is where that government material comes in. Miss Becky Bowen runs that unit, and under her watch, that the nation's archives has really grown. She also does a lot of research on women's rights. And so just that wealth of knowledge that she brings to the game has really kind of upped our level of professionalism. And then our collections, we do have a very large collections. Like I said, we have one of the largest beadwork collections on the East Coast. Not the largest. I would like to figure that out in the near future, but that's one of the items that people donate the most. They donate beadwork to us the most, and we are collecting it, and we have it from all 6 nations. So another thing that we started doing, Mr. Galucki, since you asked about this, we have started to ask for some of the objects of Seneca Nation back. And 2 of the biggest objects that have received most of the press has been the corn planter pipe tomahawk, which was gifted to him by George Washington. And then we have the Red Jacket Peace Medal, which was gifted to Red Jacket by George Washington for the negotiations of the same treaty, the Treaty of 1794. That treaty is really important for the Seneca Nation now, but it should also be very important for the United States and Western New York, because this really sets up the story of where New York State grew and the United States grew. I know I went through this super quick, but you guys have a pretty good taste of our facility. I do encourage everyone to come down. There are elements of it that are state of the art that has made some people a little jealous, and me very grateful, because it allows us to have more sovereign rights over the care and curation of our own materials.
Dr. Joe, you did a great job. Melissa, let's see if we got 1, maybe 2 questions we can answer quickly, but I appreciated you mentioning that return of the Peace Medal to Red Jacket. That was a big deal here for years, housed at the Buffalo History Museum, and now I was down there in the fall, now housed at your museum, and that's a good thing for the region. Melissa?
Dennis, we don't have any questions in the chat
This
right
is
now.
fine. Joe, then what you have is a couple of minutes to give us things
Oh,
that you.
I actually do. I have a question, of course now.
There you go. Let's go.
Is there any information about the turtle in Niagara Falls?
The turtle was purchased by Milstein back in the early 2000s, I believe. He owns it, and the material inside is owned by someone else. I have been in the turtle twice since the pandemic started. The foundation is pretty much destroyed. A lot of things in there are getting moldy and old. There are a few unique things in there, but it looks like more or less it's been cleaned out over the last few decades. I don't think the turtle's coming back, and which is a real shame. It is a landmark in Western New York that a lot of people recognize.
Joe, I'll ask a quickie. We've got casinos in the region. Do you ever see yourself having having the casinos be an outpost for your museum exhibits that rotate, so that people visiting a casino get a sense of the history and heritage of the Seneca Nation?
Mr. Galucki, that is a very good question, and that is one that is being discussed. It has been discussed for the last 3 years, but well, the museum basically opened up, the new cultural center opened up right before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I was only in my job for about 7 months before the pandemic hit. And so we have been rebuilding. It's been a mixed blessing. With the pandemic, it allowed us to start over at square one on how do we want to organize our cultural center and build it up. Because the old blueprint of the museum staffing didn't work over here at the new museum, at the new center. And so we basically had to start over. We are still working through that process. And once we are a little bit more firmed up here, we're going to create another center or an outpost on Cattaraugus territory up along Lake Erie. They need materials, and then we're going to start going to the casinos.
Nice. I mean, it's just a natural.
So it is a thought. We are thinking about it, but it's a stepping stone. First, we got to get the center in order, and then we start working out.
I think that's great, and it'd be like cross promotion, if you will.
Yes, it will.
For everybody like that. Any last thoughts as you summarize? I show about a minute or so to go. Unless, Melissa, do you have any last minute questions that came in?
I do. Someone asked if you're acquainted with Mr. Waterman's piece at the Erie Basin Marina.
No. Can someone send me a link to that? Can you send it to Mr. Galucki and he will send it to me, because I am working on this project with Mr. Waterman, and I am trying to collect at least images of all of his works over the last few decades. And I don't know about that piece, and that would help me. I do see one more question, and I will answer that, and then I must go, Mr. Galucki. What special exhibits are we having this year? We're actually having a number of exhibits opening up. I have one coming up in the next few weeks, and it is called Seneca United, and it talks about Seneca Nation in particular, defending their sovereignty over the last 200 years. We picked some key moments, and we kind of focus on that. Also in March, we are going to have a new exhibit on lacrosse. It's springtime, and we want to get the young people out there, and we want them interested in lacrosse. So we're going to do a lacrosse exhibit. There will be pieces from Dr. Rodney Herring in there, and Mr. Carson Waterman, and people from all over the community. Please come down and see that. Mr. Galucki, thank you for your time. I'm glad we had this opportunity to do this. And we'll talk again, okay? If you can give me a call tomorrow, maybe we should talk for about 10 minutes.
I'd like to do that. Dr. Joe Stahlman, thank you very much for participating. Now get going, and you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye. All right, folks. That is, I'm glad this all worked out. So thanks for joining us. I want to talk just for a moment. We've got a few moments about next week's speaker. It will be Greg Delaney. Greg is the clinical assistant professor at the Department of Architecture at the University of Buffalo. And our topic, very timely, will be why the Great Northern matters. You may have seen letters to the editor on the subject. It'd be hard not to be aware of the community discussion going on around the Great Northern. What we're discovering, and I'm part of the Canal Side Heritage Study Group and History Advisory Group, Canal Side History Advisory Group. And the term often gets used of this area being heritage driven, that we see the importance of all the landmarks that we have as not just reflections of our past, but truly assets for our future. And a great many of us, myself included, feel that the Great Northern is one of the largest landmarks we have, built landmarks, pointing to telling a story that draws people to our area. And that story is around the greatness of the grain elevators invented here in Buffalo, the uniqueness of a brick boxed elevator, one of a kind. Dr. Frankowski said in the world. I've certainly heard that it's one of a kind in America, North America. It should be a great topic. So for those of you interested in it, please tell those friends and networks of yours that next week we'll be hearing from Greg Delaney, again, with the School of Department of Architecture and Planning at the University of Buffalo, talking about why the Great Northern matters. So I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well and good day.